Hi guys, today a quick look at the issue I had with my car, but it may also solve you some other stuff and look inside the electronics of the car. I had a problem with my Fiat Stilo that I basically couldn't turn off the ignition and the fan that's in the front of the car that cools the engine. It was completely on constantly when the battery was connected, and I couldn't turn off the ignition when I stopped. I could pull out the key, but the engine was still running. And if you have a situation like this, just put it into a gear, push the brake, and pull your handbrake. And just lift off the clutch, let the engine die on itself. But keep in mind that the car can move 20, 30 centimeters, and even if you push the brakes, because it will jam off and just disconnect the battery. And the solution here was, because I started reading on this issue, just problem with the fuse box itself. Because people went to the car wash without the fuse box lid, and they just had a lot of water under the fuse box part, and it's a really small. Basically, it's a plastic container inside, and here it is. I didn't have a cover for on my car at all, and it just someone lost it, or something other happened with it. And as you can see, there is a lot of grime. If you take a look at it over here, it's a lot of dirt. This is a plus connector for the fuse box. There is a dirt inside each slot for the unused ports, for the relays, and so on. And the problems with the relays was actually, let me just try again. Was this relay for the fan, and was, if I remember correctly, this relay for the engine itself, the electronics of the engine. So we have this is a 50 amp relay. The black ones over here are 20 amp relays, and the red ones are 30 amp. I checked, and all the relays seems fine. So I decided to remove the fuse box completely and start cleaning it, because there was a lot of dirt. I also presumed that due to the fact that I didn't have a lead on, just a lot of the abrased metal with the dirt and the water and humidity and so on, it just went into the fuse box itself, because it's not as easy inside as you think it would be, and started creating some kind of resistance inside. And as you can see, there is quite a lot of corrosion going on. The green part, it was in the parts of the fuse box, and actually what you have inside is something resembling the multi-layered circuit board, but it's actually it is a circuit board, but it's made out of simply metal parts, as you can see here, connected to each other. Um, and that's basically it. There are 4 layers, I think, inside here, and this isn't user serviceable, and everything is staked on using these little rivets, plastic rivets, together. The connections are inside between the layers. So it's not really that obvious how to troubleshoot something like that, because you can't take it apart. You can only clean it. And I decided to pull everything, uh, mark all the fuses, all the relays, even though I knew their values. But all of the relays, apart from one, are original parts that were in the car when it was new. So, and I pulled everything, and I started cleaning. Firstly, I soaked it in the water. I will show it in a second, and also clean all the contacts on the. As you can see, the fuses are really shiny over here, some of them at least, with the sandpaper that I have on the knife. So I started to clean, and I use for that purpose firstly warm water with warm soapy water, and then rinse this one out with water and vinegar mixture to lift all the grime, and just firstly starting with cleaning the stuff that shouldn't be there, and then I rinse it in the clean cold water. The perfect solution would be actually using some kind of contact cleaner, but that's quite expensive, even for especially for the board that size. And also you could also use at the end simply distilled water, chemically clean water, that it would remove the stuff left behind by other chemicals. And as you can see here, let me just quickly zoom in. I started staking in the plastic parts. So they are not really that great, because I was using the soldering iron for that purpose, but they are working, the plastic rivets. And I was also worried because there were some parts that actually of the board that actually left off completely. And let me show you an example. If I remember correctly, this part lift off completely, and it was bent. I had to stake it in back. And when I opened the box, this part was simply loose completely. That it was just floating around inside. And I also had some suspicions about the other problems, because as you can see, I removed there's another stake part over here. I removed all the corrosions, but it's still a bit dirty. I try to, work with all kinds of brushes to make sure that this is all clean. Um, and try to find any other issues. But in between the if you can see here, in between the contacts inside and the layers of the board, there was actually burned plastic, because the type of plastic they decided to use here was instead of burning completely but keeping the shape, they used a plastic there that could be um, that could melt and change its shape in the heat. And so that was a little bit of weird choice of plastic. But at the same time, I have to commend them that after 16 years that this fuse box was in place, the plastic wasn't brittle, and it surely had temperatures ranging from -20 to I guess 100 or so under the hood in Celsius. So that was quite good. I decided, because there was a little bit of skid marks, a small fire under the hood, so I decided to go with hot glue to at least make sure that there won't be any dirt getting inside of the hole where the little fire was. And I cleaned up everything inside beforehand. Obviously, I also removed the reminiscences of the hot glue over here after this photo. And as you can see here, this is the other side of the board where you can see burned marks. Let me just zoom into that. And this isn't really that great, because there was something going on bad inside, and you really need to make sure that you have all the covers you need under the hood, because there is a reason why those are there. And this is the plastic, the front cover itself. After cleaning, I couldn't clean it actually really well, even though I use all kinds of brushes and so on. The heat and dirt actually went into the plastic, and I decided that it just doesn't make any sense. At least it isn't conductive anymore. There are some burn marks over here, and yeah. it doesn't really look that good. But overall, after cleaning it all the parts went in quite well, and everything started to work. And I also decided to use a little bit of hot glue to make sure that there wasn't any holes that abrased metal can get into. And I also afterwards I made a makeshift cover for the fuse box, just in case there won't be any water, so there won't be additional corrosion. This is the place where the fuse box comes in, and there are actually 4 connectors on the back of it. In total, they have about 50 pins, and these 2 are high current ones. That's a drawing, but you get what I mean. And this little connection here is a plus from the positive of the battery to the fuse box. And the fuse box previously was only held by this little screw, and as you can see on the next snap, it was only held in place in those 2 places by the sides, but it wasn't really that great. I now made sure that it holds really nicely. And that's basically all, guys. So if you have problems with electronics like that, make sure that it's all clean, and if it's all disconnected, it's safe to use. Even stuff like water, to clean it up. So firstly, make sure to remove all kinds of grime and so on. And yeah, using a little bit of sandpaper to make sure that all contacts are clean before putting everything back together is actually a good idea. And also isolating it from the dirt and everything that's going on, and water during the normal operation, especially in the next to the engine, like in the car. It's a really good idea. So I guess that's all, guys. Thanks for watching.